The most dangerous invitations are never spoken out loud. They're whispered, signed with a thought, sealed in secret, and they often begin with lust. Not love, not intimacy, lust, that hollow craving dressed as desire. It doesn't just enter your mind, it knocks on the doors of the unseen. And when you say yes with your body, something ancient walks in. Not passion, a presence, a parasite. Every time you lust without covenant, without purpose, without purity, you don't just ignite flesh, you open portals. See, Lewis once wrote that the gates of hell are locked from the inside. Lust is the key, the shiny one. It promises you pleasure but hands you a leash. You think you're alone when it happens. But the spiritual realm doesn't need candlelight or company. All it needs is consent and silence, because lust thrives where shame hides. It builds its altar in bedrooms, in phone screens, in imaginations you've convinced yourself are harmless. And the moment you surrender, you're no longer alone. You've summoned something. You've made a bed, and now a demon lies in it. This isn't about guilt. It's about war. A war for your soul, your legacy, your identity. And the battlefield is quieter than you think. Because demons don't crash through doors. They slip through cracks. Cracks you leave open. Every time you confuse lust for love. Every time you call sin just being human. Every time you think no one sees but something always does. Now the question is, what exactly have you been sleeping with? And more importantly, how do you make it leave devil whim, the invisible covenant of lust, a deal signed in silence? Lust doesn't ask for permission. It waits for your silence. Every time you surrender to it, not by accident, but in willful secrecy, you're not just indulging in a moment of weakness. You're entering an agreement, a spiritual contract, one you don't remember signing, but one that holds you hostage nonetheless. This is the invisible covenant of lust. It's not made with ink, but with imagination, not with paper, but with posture. The posture of your soul bowing to temporary pleasure, while forfeiting eternal peace. Lust feeds on fantasy, not reality. It convinces you that what you're doing is private, harmless, natural. But in the spiritual realm there is no such thing as harmless. There is only covenant or compromise. And every time you engage with lust, through pornography, illicit imagination, fornication, you're just acting on impulse. You're agreeing. You're saying, yes, I allow this spirit to enter, not into your body, into your life. The danger isn't just in the act, it's in the pattern, because lust becomes a rhythm, and rhythm becomes ritual. And demons don't need an invitation written in blood. They just need consistency. They thrive in habits, especially the hidden ones. See, Lewis warned us in the Screwtape letters that the safest road to destruction is the slow, silent one, the one paved with soft indulgences, the one where you don't even realize you're in bondage, because everything still looks normal. That's the terrifying brilliance of lust. It mimics love without requiring sacrifice. It offers ecstasy without covenant. And in doing so, it binds you to an altar you didn't mean to build. Make no mistake, spiritual forces operate through agreements. The Holy Spirit requires surrender. The demonic realm requires secrecy. Lust is the language of invitation in hell, not shouted but whispered. And when you keep saying yes with your body while staying silent with your spirit, the enemy takes that as consent, a deal, a partnership. And just like that, your spirit becomes bound to something it never saw coming. Because demons don't come through the front door. They wait for you to leave a window cracked, and your bedroom, whether you know it or not, is an altar. You think it's just a mattress and four walls, but in the unseen realm, it's a battlefield of worship. Because worship isn't just what you do with your voice, it's what you do with your body. Romans 12:1 calls your body a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. That means every touch, every thought, every secret moment is either sacred or profane. The truth is, your bed becomes holy or haunted, depending on what spirit is welcomed in. Sex was never meant to be casual. It was created by God as covenant glue, a sacred act that echoes eternity. But when lust hijacks it, it stops being covenant and becomes contamination. You're not just exchanging bodies, you're exchanging altars. You're exchanging spirit. You lie down with more than a person. You lie down with their history, their habits, their hidden wars. And whatever demons they've refused to fight, get handed a key to your space, because sex is spiritual warfare disguised as pleasure. And this is where most people get trapped. They think it's just physical. But demons don't need your permission in words. They enter through patterns. They enter through passivity. They enter when we say with our actions, "This is worth more to me than purity." And every time that happens, your altar burns with a fire that God never lit. Ask yourself, if angels walked into your bedroom right now, would they worship or would they weep? Because the bedroom is more than private. It's prophetic. You're either honoring the Spirit of God or entertaining the spirits that oppose him. And the question isn't, is it wrong? The real question is, what spirit is being glorified here? Because no altar stays empty. It either honors heaven or hosts. Your choice is in secret or building a legacy in the spiritual. You're either offering yourself to righteousness or sacrificing destiny at the altar of momentary desire. So again, the question isn't just who you're sleeping with, it's what you're bowing to. 3. Lust's masquerade. When demons dress as desire, lust never comes as itself. It wears a mask, and it knows exactly which one to choose. Sometimes it looks like romance, other times like connection. But beneath the perfume, the charm, the dopamine high, is something ancient, cold and calculated. It's not after your pleasure, it's after your soul. Demons rarely storm through the front door. They're far more clever than that. They come as fantasy pretending to be love. But real love, divine love, doesn't take without giving. It doesn't consume without covenant. It builds, protects, and calls you higher. Lust does the opposite. It flatters you, excites you, then hollows you out. And when it's done, it leaves you emptier than before, with a craving that screams louder every time you feed it. This is how demons move, not with horror movie theatrics, but through agreements, invisible contracts written in your mind. And every time you entertain lust, you co-sign the lie. This is what I need. This is who I am. This is harmless. But lust is never harmless. It carves spiritual doors in your life. It connects you to people, images, and spirits you were never meant to touch. And once that connection is made, breaking it requires more than regret. It demands repentance, authority, war. Ask yourself, why is it easier to give in than to walk away? Why does it feel so good and yet leave you so ashamed? Because lust is a masquerade, a demon in disguise, and the longer you dance with it, the harder it is to tell the difference between desire and destruction. If Satan came with horns, you'd run, but he comes as beauty, as charm, as something that feels like you've waited your whole life for it. But it's bait. Lust is bait. The hook is hidden, but it's there. And once it's in, it drags more than your flesh. It drags your calling, your clarity, your fire. You weren't made for chains. You were made to discern. And if you don't start seeing the masks for what they are, you'll keep mistaking your enemy for your soulmate. P. The demonic economy. What you think is free costs your future. Just a moment of escape, a rush of dopamine disguised as satisfaction. But in the demonic economy, nothing is free. Everything costs something, and lust is one of hell's most profitable currencies. Here's the truth. Every time you trade your purity for pleasure, you're not just spending a night, you're mortgaging your destiny. That brief burning desire, it doesn't disappear. It accumulates interest. Not in your body, in your spirit. Because demons don't want your pleasure. They want your power. They're not after your 5 minutes of lust. They're after the anointing you were born with. Every time you give in, something gets taken. Your clarity, your peace, your authority. Bit by bit, they vanish, and you don't even notice. Until one day, you wake up feeling empty, unmotivated, disconnected, and you think it's burnout. But it's not. You've been drained. You see, lust isn't just an action, it's a transaction. And like any crooked deal, you only realize how much you've lost after it's gone. Your focus slips. Your confidence shatters. Your spirit feels foggy because you've traded the eternal for the immediate. Neville Goddard said, "Imagination is the foundation of all that man is." So when your imagination becomes corrupted by lust, it doesn't just affect what you see, it changes what you become. You can't build a holy future with polluted blueprints. And the enemy knows that. That's why he doesn't mind letting you feel good for a while. Because he's not trying to ruin your day. He's trying to bankrupt your purpose. So don't be fooled by the illusion of no consequences. The demons you entertain with your body will collect with your future. You may not see the cost now, but your calling, and in the end you'll learn the hard way. Lust isn't free. It just lets you believe that, until it's too late. It's the website you said you'd never visit again until 2 a.m. rolls around, and your willpower starts whispering excuses. It's the reel you didn't plan to click, but didn't scroll past either. It's the quiet fantasy that plays in your head while you pretend to pray. This is addiction, not to flesh, but to shadows. Lust becomes a lifestyle long before it becomes a scandal. It thrives in silence. It grows in secrecy, and the longer you pretend it's under control, the deeper it wraps its chains. You don't need visible shackles to be enslaved. The enemy prefers invisible ones, because if you can't see the chains, you won't try to break them. C.S. Lewis wrote, "The safest road to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings." That's how lust wins, not with explosions, but with erosion. It slowly chips away at your conviction, your clarity, your confidence. It convinces you this is just who you are now. And the worst part, you start managing your sin instead of mourning it. You schedule it, justify it, swear it'll be the last time while secretly planning for the next. The moment you stop confessing is the moment the shadow becomes your shelter. But shadows never protect. They deceive. You think you're hiding, but you're only being hunted in the dark. Lust makes you lie to yourself. I'm still spiritual. I still love God. I'm just struggling. But struggling without resisting is surrender in disguise, and the chains only tighten. Freedom doesn't begin with strength. It begins with exposure, bringing the shadows into the light, not just to be seen, but to be set free. Because what you conceal, you give power to, and what you confess, you give to God. You're not addicted to pleasure, you're addicted to escape. But no amount of pixels or partners will ever heal what only presence can. So stop pretending you're fine. Shatter the silence, and choose the light, even if it burns, because healing always starts with pain, but ends in freedom. 6. Screwtapes agenda. Erode, not explode. Demons aren't in a hurry. That's the first lie we must confront. They don't need your collapse today. They'd rather have your slow decay quietly, consistently, invisibly. C. Lewis, in the Screwtape letters, exposed this diabolical truth with unnerving precision. The safest road to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings. This is the blueprint, not fire and fury, but delay, distraction, dullness of spirit. Screwtape's strategy isn't to scare you, it's to bore you, to get you comfortable with compromise. He wants your conscience dulled just enough to stop repenting, but not guilty enough to start changing. He whispers, "It's just a moment. You can pray afterward. God understands." And with each whisper, your spirit gets quieter, not dead, just numb. This erosion begins with small things. You skip prayer one day. You stay up scrolling longer than you should. You watch that scene a second too long. You think, this doesn't really matter. But in the spiritual realm, nothing is neutral. Every choice is either building the throne of God in your life, or tearing it down brick by brick. The genius of Screwtape's plan is how undetectable it feels. It doesn't come wrapped in sin. It comes wrapped in permission. Permission to delay your calling. Permission to indulge just a little. Permission to walk the middle path. But lukewarm is the temperature of spiritual death. Demons don't need your full collapse to win. They just need you to forget who you are, to keep you in cycles of almost delivered, almost healed, almost pure, stuck in a spiritual fog, productive in the world, but powerless in the kingdom. And when you're no longer a threat, they no longer have to fight you. You'll start fighting yourself. This is the real war, not in chaos, but in comfort, not in fire, but in erosion. Because the devil doesn't need to explode your life, if he can just keep you too numb to notice it's already falling apart. You were never created to be a slave to lust. You were crafted in the image of God, not to be ruled by urges, but to rule over them. But somewhere along the way, the temple became defiled, not destroyed, just infiltrated. The enemy doesn't need to demolish you to disarm you. All it needs is access. And lust is the access point. One compromise at a time, it turns sacred ground into familiar sin. You start calling it normal, natural. Everyone does it. But what's common isn't always clean, and what's tolerated in the mind eventually dominates the soul. But here's the truth. You can rebuild. You can reclaim. Because broken doesn't mean unusable. It means battle-tested. And the first step isn't trying harder. It's surrendering deep. You reclaim your temple not by hiding your sin, but by dragging it into the light. Confession isn't weakness, it's warfare. Because every time you speak truth, the lies lose oxygen. Next, you rebuild with covenant. This isn't about behavior modification. It's about identity restoration. You are a gatekeeper of divine fire, not a prisoner of carnal desire. Your body isn't a playground for demons. It's a dwelling place for the spirit. Then comes consecration, the hard part, the fasting, the fleeing, the daily decision to starve what starves you. Lust loses power when you stop feeding it. This is where the battle cry begins, not with noise, but with resolve, not with shame, but with holy anger. You don't get free by feeling bad. You get free by getting fed up, by drawing a bloodline in the sand and declaring no more. Not in my mind, not in my temple. You weren't made for cycles. You were made for victory. And the moment you reclaim your temple, you don't just protect your destiny, you threaten hell itself. So stand up, clean the altar, and light the fire again. 8. Final reckoning, the crown or the chain. There always comes a moment, a quiet one. After the rush, after the desire is spent, when the soul sits in silence, and in that stillness, something stares back at you. It's not shame, not even guilt, it's truth. The inescapable realization that you just traded a piece of your authority for a moment of pleasure. Every act of lust isn't just a mistake, it's a transaction, one that leaves you lighter, not in freedom, but in power. You were born to wear a crown, not a metaphorical one, but a real spiritual mantle, a divine authority. When God created man, he gave dominion, not dysfunction. But lust has a way of slipping in unnoticed and swapping your crown for a chain. Not instantly, not obviously. It's gradual, quiet, like rust on royalty. The chain shows up in ways you don't even associate with lust. That lack of clarity when you pray, the spiritual fog, the heaviness you carry for no visible reason. The feeling that something's feeding on your peace, your boldness, your identity. Because something is demons don't just crave bodies, they crave influence, legacy, generational access, and lust is their ticket in. The chain is not just bondage, it's permission, a signal that says, he won't fight back, she won't resist. But here's the sobering truth, you choose, every time. No matter your past, every temptation is a crossroad. Will you reach for the throne God prepared for you, or will you let the serpent tighten the chain, just a little more? The crown requires discipline. The chain demands nothing, just surrender. But if you choose the crown, the enemy trembles, because a man or woman who reclaims authority over their flesh becomes unstoppable in the spirit. Heaven begins to back their voice. Chains don't just break, they burn. So the question is not can I stop, it's do I remember who I really am? Because lust doesn't take everything all at once. It waits for you to forget you were ever royalty. The crown or the chain, that's the final reckoning. Choose. And by now you've seen the truth. It doesn't just stain your body, it marks your spirit. It doesn't simply take your time, it steals your territory. Lust is more than a sin. It's a strategy the enemy has used for generations to strip kings of their crowns, to silence prophets, to defile temples meant for glory. Samson didn't lose his strength in a fight, he lost it in a bed. David didn't lose his kingdom in battle, he lost it when he lingered on a roof. The war wasn't outside them, it was within them. And the same is true for you. Because every time you bow to lust you raise a flag, not to God, but to something else, something watching, something waiting. You might think it's harmless, just a feeling, just a moment, just a scream. But in the spirit realm it is never just anything. You were never created to crawl back to your shame night after night. You were created to stand, to reign, to walk in a spiritual boldness that causes hell to tremble when you but to reclaim that ground, you have to confront what's been living in your bed, your mind, your habits. The truth is, lust doesn't leave easily, it leaves violently. Because it's not a habit, it's a spirit. And spirits don't walk away politely, they're cast out with authority. And that authority, it's still in you. C.S. Lewis once said, "We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition, when infinite joy is offered us. You don't have to settle for shadows. You don't have to bow to urge. You don't have to keep living like your identity is negotiable. You are more than what tempts you. You are more than what broke you. You are more than the memory of your last fall. Yes, you've made mistakes. Yes, you've invited things in. But now you're awake. Now you see the truth. And the moment you see the truth, you are accountable to it. So today isn't just a warning, it's a summons, a call to close the door, to cleanse the room, to command the spirit to leave, to rebuild the altar, not of lust, but of fire. Because where lust devours, holiness restores. Where demons seduce, God redeems. And what was once a bed of bondage can become a place of revival. But it starts now, not tomorrow, not when I'm stronger. Now, because the next time temptation comes knocking, you'll remember what's really at stake. It's not about self-control, it's about spiritual territory, it's about war. And in this war you don't fight for victory, you fight from victory. You are not alone, you are not broken beyond repair, you are chosen, you are royal. And the bed you once surrendered to demons is about to become the ground where they burn.